If you think the government of the United States is corrupt, the UK is really a cesspool. At least in the US swamp, there are signs of life. As far as the UK is concerned, the only things that thrive are the bacteria that live off the floating, decomposing shit turds, and chief of which is that fake Peterborough Queen. I don't normally repost videos other people put their time into making, but the following one is something the world needs to hear. I provide links below, so go give him a thumbs up and subscribe to his channel. UK politics may be a bit hard to understand, but it is very important to know that their corruption is our corruption. We need to do away with all of it. The very idea that a journalist can become a political prisoner and be persecuted for exposing the most vile and evil shit that has been hidden for millennia should be cause for the dismantling of all governments of the planet and the public execution of all the enemies of freedom everywhere. Julian is being set up for assassination, in my opinion. Watch the following video and see if you agree.
Hello there everybody, Peter of England here. Today is the 5th of November. So remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I can see no reason why this gunpowder season should ever be forgot. Infamous words over 400 years ago by an individual who tried to realize or make realize in our minds that the words fear and intolerance and oppression were not to be remembered, but justice, truth and help for your fellow man were of imperative importance. Over 400 years ago, this individual, Guido Fawkes, was hung, drawn and quartered by Parliament. And what's happening today, on this 5th of November 2019, is an individual languishes in HM prison Belmarsh in London, and his name is Julian Assange. So, the nature of this video today is to bring to people's attention worldwide the cast of players, the dramatis personae involved in the persecution of Julian Assange. Now, the reason in part that I'm making this video now is that at 6 o'clock this evening, London time, there is a demonstration or a protest or an appeal outside the Home Office building in Marsham Street in London, scheduled to commence at 1800 hours. And the nature of the demonstration or the meeting is to persuade the government to release Julian Assange. These people in number could range between 1,000, they could be 10,000, but as we've seen in the past, even very, very large demonstrations with up to 1 million people in attendance in London usually result in no activity whatsoever on behalf of an intransigent government. And that's because of a point that most people are missing, and that is the Senate, or the state, as we call it in the United Kingdom, is in control of you and deems you to be nothing more than its possession on the estate. A bit like the way that a farmer would look at a cow or a horse or a sheep or any of the byproducts from these animals. Yeah? The farmer doesn't want to get into discussion with anyone about the nature and the purpose of right to life, right to the milk, right to the product that's derived, because the farmer, in his mind, owns everything. He provided the water, the grass, the land the animal walks on. So that's very, very important for people who need to question how do we and how can we get Julian Assange released from HMP Belmarsh. So what I'm going to try and do now is expose some of the players in this theatre, this cinema play that parades itself as some type of justice. And unless people out there get this right, then they're never going to make any progress with the demonstration, as I say, whether it's 1,000 people or it's 10 million. they won't be listened to. So, anyone who can direct this video to people like John Pilger, who unfortunately hasn't been able to get back to me because I was trying to arrange for us to meet, if possible, today. John Shipton, who is the father of Julian Assange. Possibly Jennifer Davidson, his supposed lawyer, who's operating out of Doughty Chambers in London, very aptly named. If you can get this video or this communication to them, then please do so, because I have some very, very important information which will, I am sure, aid in a successful release from custody of Julian Assange. Okay, so, that being said, the dramatis personae involved in the Julian Assange saga. As many of you will be aware, Julian Assange first went into the Ecuadorian embassy in 2012. Now, he was given that sanctuary by the then president of Ecuador, a chap called Rafael Correa. That all ran very, very smoothly and very, very ably, as far as Julian Assange was concerned, up until the former vice president, under Rafael Correa, became the president. And this guy is called Lenin, you got that right, Lenin Moreno. So, the now then president, Lenin Moreno, ends up being compromised by the CIA because he has fraudulent accounts, or accounts that he has sequestrated and hidden incredible amounts of money in. So the CIA basically make an offer to him that he either plays ball or they're going to seize his accounts and his family's accounts and destabilise the government. So that deal came in around about April the 7th, April the 8th. Prior to that, slightly 4 months later, Mike Pence from the Trump administration visited Ecuador to discuss who knows what with a guy called Mike Pompeo. So we end up then, mysteriously, all of a sudden, with a complete change of heart by the Ecuadorian president, who now decides not only to cut off all internet access for Julian Assange, but to withdraw his permission. This then leads to the, I think it's the April the 10th, evacuation of Julian Assange from the Ecuadorian embassy in London into the hands of the security services in the United Kingdom and into a state now of purgatory. He's 22 hours a day locked up, and the main question, the main drill down here that I'm trying to present to everyone listening to this now, a Julian Assange supporter, you would have to be, is that in the past 8 years, his legal team have got him nowhere. Yeah? The best that they've been able to do is to play a type of defensive ice hockey game, occasionally getting smashed over the head by the system, and then withdrawing for a while and trying to come up with something. The blonde lawyer that you see on most of the Julian Assange videos when they're talking outside the High Court or the Supreme Court or wherever it is, or being interviewed, is a lady called Jennifer Davidson. She works out of the chambers in London called Doughty Chambers. Now, at the moment, I'm not exactly convinced of her sincerity towards Julian Assange's case, but I also know that within the act of the characters, the cast of the characters on the stage, there are some very, very suspicious individuals lurking. You will recall that Julian Assange had his private area in the embassy bugged. You will also be aware that the toilets were bugged, the Ecuadorian diplomatic area within the Ecuadorian embassy had been bugged, and it had been bugged by a Spanish company. The Spanish company was nothing more than an alter ego of the CIA. Now, it was also very strange that the lead law advisor for Julian Assange in 2010 or to 12 was a guy called Baltasar Garzón. Now, Baltasar Garzón was also accused of bugging, with a Spanish company, certain individuals that he was trying to get evidence on. Apart from that, the connection with Jennifer Davidson being an associate of Balthazar Garzon for now remains just that, a speculation. So that's as it is. Those are the facts. We also know that the ex-president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, has stipulated that his replacement now, which is Lenin Moreno, has done a despicable act and was involved in fraud and has been deliberately compromised by the CIA and other security services in coming to some deal whereby he has sold his soul and then delivered Julian Assange's soul almost in return. So not good news, but those are the facts we know. Other people involved in it, the QC. So why I'm going through this is, people, you have to understand that the legal system, from the lawyers, through the barristers, through the judges, and through to the Department of Justice or the Crown Prosecution in England, up to the Home Secretary, who is now a woman called Priti Patel, who took over from Saeed Javid, who signed the extradition warrant for poor old Julian. These people are all beads on a string. They are all complicit and they're all accountable. So what I'm trying to drill down on you today is that instead of demonstrating outside the Home Office building in Marsham Street, instead of having a 1 million person protest on the street, you have got to realise that the only way you'll get satisfaction is if you make these people, by name, culpable and accountable, so they are liable for anything that happens to him. Because this is the problem with the democratic organisation. When Theresa May was Home Secretary, she signed the order for the detention of Julian Assange and his possible extradition. She then became Prime Minister. Now she's out of politics virtually, and she'll drift away into the background. And so the trick of democracy on the people is that it's a revolving door, like a revolving door at the Ritz. People go in, spin around, go out. So they're never held accountable. So what I'm saying to you is we have to start making them held accountable. But that's only part of the deal. Let's look about the wolves, the hyenas and the jackals that surround an unfortunate individual called Julian Assange. I've mentioned a chap called Mark Summers. He's operating as the QC, the Queen's Counsel. That's a bit of a giveaway. The Queen's Counsel, who has sworn an oath not to compromise any directions from the Queen and not also to embarrass the court or the judge by asking awkward questions at the wrong time, especially if it's an open court. So, Mark Summers operates out of a chambers called the Matrix Chambers in London. These are the same chambers that Sherry Blair and Tony Blair did part of their barristership in their pre, should we say, Downing Street days. We've mentioned Doughty Chambers, where Jennifer Davidson operates. We've also got to now, because this is what's come to my attention recently, when we had the last court appearance for Julian Assange, when, as you'll read in the news, you could hardly remember his name and you could hardly raise a defence. The judge there, district court judge at Westminster Magistrates Court, a woman called Vanessa Barreza, she basically states that Julian Assange did not or was not allowed bail because, quote, she had given his defence counsel the opportunity to ask for bail, but they had refused to ask. She then says, it's hardly surprising, to paraphrase, they're probably of the same opinion as I am, that you have a history of absconding. Okay, you could lay that charge at him, but anyone in fear of his life might try and abscond. However, he's not an escape artist. Okay? He hadn't escaped from jail. He hadn't tunnelled his way out. So, my question to the legal team, representing Julian Assange, my question to John Pilger, my question to John Shipton, my question to Mark Summers, to QC, my question to Jennifer Davidson, my question to the next big party of it, a lawyer who should have been representing him in court, a woman, you've got it, called Gareth, man's name, Gareth Pierce, from a law firm in London, just off Camden Town, called Bernberg Pierce. This lady, Gareth Pierce, 79 years of age, seemingly refused to ask the judge for bail for Julian Assange. Ask yourself, how could that be? When Julian Assange was asked by the judge, do you understand what's actually taken place here today? He said, no, not exactly, but I'm sure my lawyers will explain. Well, I don't think they've explained too well, because he's still in HMP Belmarsh, and even if bail hadn't been granted, as Julian Assange is not a serial escapist, he's not a danger to society, he hasn't been jailed or imprisoned for grievous bodily harm or harming other people, why wasn't a request made to case manage him and move him to a less, a less oppressive confinement? Why not to an open prison? Why not to many of the other prisons where he can even act or interact with prisoners? So what they're trying to do, and let's get this right, the system, and it isn't the Syed Javids, it isn't his replacement Priti Patel, it isn't Boris Johnson, it isn't the judges in the court, it isn't the governor of HM Prison Belmarsh who are actively trying to kill him. It's the people who are controlling them. The puppet masters, the people who give the orders, the mandarins of power behind the curtain. Like in The Wizard of Oz. It's the hand in the glove, because the reason this is done is they stay in power and they make their calls over the decades. The people like Theresa May, David Cameron, Syed Javid, Dominic Grieve, who was the ex-Attorney General, they go, they come, they leave, they pass away. Many things can happen. They get blamed in scandals and get put under the bus wheels. That doesn't matter. Let them go. They're expendable. So what we've got here is today, on the 5th of November, coincidentally, in the United States, the trial begins of a guy called Roger Stone, who is the last individual on the Mueller report conveyor belt to be used to try and bring a Russian collusion case against Donald Trump. So for those of you who are familiar with American politics, you'll know what I'm on about. For those who are not too familiar, all I will say to you is that WikiLeaks is supposed to be being used as the fall guy by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party read the global Zionist control faction, the deep state, who control everything. The banks, the insurance, the finance houses, the political regimes, the 5G, the 4G, the bombs, the guns, you name it, the exports from China, the fact that we can't leave the European Union because it's going to affect adversely the Brussels agenda. That's what you're facing. That's what Julian Assange is facing, because they don't want him to speak. Yeah? They want to keep him boxed in, and this message was as applicable to Tommy Robinson as it is to Julian Assange. And so if anyone wants to do Tommy Robinson a favour, also pass this video on to him, because there's something that he needs to know pretty quick, and this is about his entrance into the court arena every time he makes an appearance. If he keeps doing what he's doing, they're going to keep doing to him whatever they like, and it's probably not well-intentioned. So, we've got the CIA, we've got MI5 and MI6, we've got global security interests who are confining their energies into targeting Julian Assange. Julian Assange is in prison. What I'm saying is we need a plan to get him out. I believe I have something, and for the purposes of this video, what I'd like to say is this is just the beginning. We're going to now start an active campaign to show a way of bringing Julian Assange out of the prison system before he gets extradited to the United States of America under so-called the Espionage Act of, I think it's 1917 in the United States. Now, don't forget, he is a Commonwealth citizen. If Britain decided that they didn't want to send him to the United States, as the British parliamentarians all seem to be very, very hostile to the Trump regime, another interesting question for you all out there is, if the British political establishment now has such a contempt and a disdain for Donald Trump, why don't they do a great favour to the members who dislike him so much by giving him the finger and saying, no, you're not going to have Julian Assange. But look who's begging for Julian Assange. It's the Democratic Party. It's all the Obama hangover faction. All the people who have been put in as sleeper cells, who are running a covert agenda behind the scenes to bring Julian Assange in. Because don't forget, Julian Assange, in a greatest part through the organisation WikiLeaks, was responsible for informing Trump and the world about the corrupt activities of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, Epstein, Hoover Aberdeen, the Podestas, and everyone else involved in the biggest web of corruption the likes of the world has never seen. So that's why they're punishing him, that's why they're going to kick him, and that's what they want. They want him to die. Make no mistake about it. So if the news reports come along, just like Jeffrey Epstein, Julian Assange mysteriously took his own life in prison, well, wow, what a coincidence. And if you don't think things like that can happen, look what's happened in the United States with a very famous actor that most people will know of, even in the UK, a chap called Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey, one of the leading TV Hollywood actors, was accused of sexual impropriety with a few people over 10 years ago. The trial was commencing. A hearing was set for this week for the trial to commence. However, earlier in the year, one of the plaintiffs died mysteriously. 2 days ago, another one died. So there is no more case against Kevin Spacey. Why I mention this is these people will do whatever they think they can get away with to ensure that the Punch and Judy show, the clown car, which is this corrupt and crony, destitute planet for any type of integrity, keeps rolling on down the road. They did it supposedly with Jeffrey Epstein. They'll do it with Julian Assange if they can. And Tommy Robinson, if you end up inside again, I just say, make sure you don't. So I've covered most of the things. I've gone down the road here in detail. So just to conclude, people out there, start to think. One thing you can do, I don't need to do it, I suggest it to you. There's a petition, I think it's called petition.org by the UK government, or a quango of the UK government. If you can get 10,000 signatures together, you can have a written response from a government department. If we got 100,000 names together, evidently we can force a question to be asked in Parliament. Why isn't anybody doing that at the moment? Have you tried it? I haven't looked. Did the pie go cold and it was not fashionable to do it now? But that's what needs to be done where you get 1 million signatures. We force a communication from the government. We politicise it again, but above all else, listen to me, John Shipton, listen to me, Mark Summers, listen to me, Jennifer Davidson, listen to me, Gareth Pierce from Bernberg Pierce, and any law firm or legal representative that's attached to Julian Assange. We're going to hold you accountable because you're fucking up, you're dropping the ball, and you're not giving him best advice. And from where I'm standing at this side of the camera, you all look bored to me. And we're going to ensure that when the cards have fallen, when the investigations have come out, when the recordings have been replayed, when the phone logs that are being kept by the NSA are revealed, you will have nowhere to hide. So if you're watching this, good news to you. Do something about it. Get in touch with me, and we are going to give them a 5th of November, which will never ever be forgotten. Thank you. Hit the button, subscribe, press the like, keep watching, pass the video.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing this video. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your calls of encouragement. And most of all, thank you for your support. Please subscribe to our backup channels, Net4Truth USA 2 Patriot channel, BitChute.com/net4Truth USA, and drop.space/ at Net4Truth USA. We fly so close to the target, we are on our 5th fighter jet. We will be relentless and persistent until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/net4truth USA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.